Hello. Today I'm going to tie for you what I'm calling a CDC Olive Nymph. It's got a couple of features that I believe make it a little more effective, and we'll talk about those as we go. I'm going to do this one on a size 16, although smaller is probably preferable if you're really trying to match olives. But this is a heavy wired nymph hook. This fly has a glass bead, and it's an interesting color. It's got a little purple cast to it. I don't have the packaging. I bought it at a craft store. You'll hopefully be able to match it up. I'm going to use a Coq de Leon tail fibers and in this case, some rabbit fur dubbing, but a thread body on the smaller flies especially wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm going to rib this with 2 strands of black tying thread. It's going to have a section of goose quill for a wing case. And I'm going to use these CDC puffs for the thorax to kind of make it leggy, maybe more buggy, and hold it all together with some gray uni thread in 8/0. So here we have the hook and the vise and the thread started. And I'm going to measure those Coq de Leon fibers for the tail. This is from that cape, so these fibers are a little thinner than the spade hackle fibers that you buy specifically for tails, so I use a few extra. I don't think it matters either way, but this was cost effective. And we got those tied in, and we'll trim them off up at the end of where the, I guess that's not really the end of the thorax. This thing kind of all blends together. And here I'm taking about an 8-inch section of that thread, doubling it over, and I'm going to get it started up here and wrap back. Kind of just keep things parallel, build in a little bit of the taper as we go. And I'll get those in the material clip. And like I said, you could have used olive thread and just done a thread body, especially on those size 20, 18 and 20. And I haven't made them any smaller. I guess it depends on the manufacturer of hooks too, right? Because these are relatively short shanked and they have a glass bead on them, so I don't know that I have beads small enough to do a smaller version. But that was one of the features here, though. I like the color of this bead and in this, and say one side on one side smaller. So we've got the rabbit dubbing in there. I tried to pick out a few of those guard hairs. You'll see I have to snip a few off it uh, in a little bit anyways. And we'll tighten up the dubbing and get up here near the end and kind of finish things off. Now you're going to want to put a whip or a half hitch here because I'm going to use the rotary feature to add the rib. I'm also going to experiment with something here too while I'm snipping out the stray fibers. But I'm going to try and in real time zoom out and show you a little more of what I'm doing when it makes sense. There are a couple of things here. I know you've all seen these. There are a million videos out there, but you haven't seen me do it, so I'm going to try and do that here. So I got a pair of hackle pliers and grabbed about 3 inches of that thread. And here's where I'm trying to zoom out. And I have my shepherd's hook, and I'm just going to spin that thread together. So no big deal twisting thread together to make a rib, but it's also the way I'm going to add in that Coq de Leon, no, I'm sorry, CDC later. I'm not the only one that mixes those up, especially while I'm speaking, but apologize for that while we get zoomed back in here and centered. And here we go. I don't want to get carried away. I don't want too many segments here. 4 or 5 wraps would be about right. Or it looks good to my eye. And we'll get a couple of thread wraps to hold down the thread we used to rib with and snip out the excess. Okay, next material in is a segment from that Goose Quill. And if you follow me and you've seen the other videos, my son-in-law shot a goose. I have an excess of this kind of material. It works great for a lot of things, including wing cases. So that's what I'm reaching for. But a clump of pheasant tail fibers or turkey quill or almost anything dark would make a nice wing case here. And I backed off a couple of thread wraps there. I was trying to leave a little extra room to snip off that the tip of the wing case. And I'll chase that stray fiber and move to the back. So even though I tied that quill segment in by the tip, I have more luck keeping it flat and smooth on top if I do that. And if you try and guess where it tied in from the other end, try and guess where those fibers get thicker. Sometimes you get back to the thick section and they kind of get all um, kind of cattywampus, get twisted up as you tie them down. So I started tying them in from the tip and I make better wing cases. So there, we've added some dubbing. And I'm going to kind of park in the middle here. I'm going to add a little more dubbing. But this is a method. It's kind of doing a complex twist on the fly here. Pardon the pun. But I'm going to do some dubbing around one leg of this thread. I'm going to add one of those puffs just from one side. I have it in that clip you can, as you've seen. And I'm going to trim the stem out. And here again, a little experimentation to show you a little more of how I'm doing this. So I'll get my shepherd's hook and I'm going to double the thread back up over. Throw it over the top to tighten up the bottom. Again, still trying to park that in the middle or at least back a little ways. I need room to wrap. We're going to want to add a another half hitch or a whip finish here. So again, I'm going to be fooling around and using the rotary feature, and we don't want things to come loose. So now I'm going to separate that loop I made, and we're going to drop in those CDC fibers. I may have let the butts be a little long there. Could have split them right down the middle for this fly. But it twists up nice. It leaves some shaggy ends, and it gives the it kind of adds a buggy effect. So I learned to grab it with hackle pliers and wrap this in because I normally don't pay attention and the shepherd's hook slips out and then we have to kind of start all over. So about 2 wraps or so of this stuff. It's nice and thick, nice and buggy. And then I'm passing the bobbin between the from hand to hand between the camera there, so things got a little loose. Kind of snugged it back up, and I'll weave the thread through and get a wrap to hold it down, and snip off the excess. So here I want to do a little primping. I probably want to kind of pull the excess or longer fibers to each side and snip out the middle. Give that wing case a place to land. And you notice when especially here tying it down, but even tying it in, you're going to want to pay attention and pull just tight enough, or add an extra wrap to pull that wing case flat and where you want it to be. Giving that a little extra attention goes a long ways to making nice wing cases. On this tiny bug, it doesn't matter much. I think there are only 4 or 5 fibers there, but So I've added some Sally Hansen's. I'm going to get a couple of thread wraps tucked down in there, pull everything out of the way, and I'll add my whip finish behind the bead. And I could have cut that quill out first, but I kind of feel like the Sally Hansen's gets to soak into the tip of the quill. I'll cut it off. It won't be perfectly close, but um, it kind of helps hold it in place. And when I put the last drop of Sally Hansen's on it, it gives it a place to kind of soak around and hold all those hold those that quill segment in place. So one last thing before we so then we're going to brush it out again to each side. You can see we have some very long fibers. You could leave these, it probably would fish just fine. I think the whole idea is to add movement to make it look buggy, but I don't know, it looks disproportionate to me, so um, I'll just kind of break those off at the length that I assumed that a leg would be. So I like that. We'll come back in with a drop of Sally Hansen's on top of the quill segment, let it soak down in. And that's pretty much the fly. Some CDC for movement and bugginess. That color, it's almost clear, but it's got a little purple cast to it. It's hard to tell on camera. It's got a rib body, imitates an olive, and can be done in different colors and different sizes. So if you hung in there, watch to the end, thank you. If you want to learn more about me, look me up on Amazon. And until next time, be safe.